Son of a glitch.
Super Mario Odyssey. It's a game about throwing hats and, reptile weddings. There's something for everyone. Lately, Nintendo games have been super polished and not very buggy at all, but Super Mario Odyssey doesn't follow that trend at all. Now, that's not to say that it's a broken, buggy mess, but it's been out less than a month and there are already a ton of glitches to talk about. So let's kick things off with our first glitch called the Talkatoo camera lock glitch. In every kingdom, you'll find Talkatoo. Standing in front of Talkatoo, if you throw Cappy behind him, if you then begin a conversation, once the conversation is over, Cappy will hit Talkatoo in the back of the head. That seems pretty painful. Kind of uncalled for. What happens then, for some unknown reason, is the camera will lock in place as if you were still talking to Talkatoo. This means Mario is able to run around just with the camera locked in place, so once he leaves the screen, you won't be able to see where he is. Everything else in the game behaves as normal, just the camera is locked. You can navigate Mario around kingdoms by using the map, and that's pretty much the only visual way to get around. Performing this glitch in New Donk City, you can actually make your way to City Hall and go inside, and doing that causes the whole of New Donk City to become dark, which is actually a really cool effect. And if you want to fix the glitch, all you have to do is warp to another point on the map. Now, outside of the actual camera lock and some of these strange effects, there's not really too much to do with this glitch, but there is a very similar glitch which is actually pretty funny. Once you've beaten the game and head back to New Donk City, you'll find that Pauline is stood outside City Hall. She's looking for her purse of all things, but hey, there's a hat right on this bench. I wonder what would happen if we throw this hat at her face and then press A at the right time. Yeah, apparently if you do that and you press A at just the right time, it softlocks the game, and all you have is the camera to keep rotating around this kind of awkward situation with a floating hat, and oh boy, I think we should move on. Wow, getting things to freeze in this game is actually really easy, as you'll see in this next glitch. In New Donk City, there's a moon that requires you get to the top of this building and jump on the scooter. You're then supposed to ride around to a key, and that unlocks a moon, which is a timed event. However, we're gonna ride straight up to the key and then wait for the timer to end. When the timer dings at the end, then accelerate into the key, and if you time it just right, you'll have this beautiful view of Mario stuck in the air on a scooter. It seems that touching the key on the very last frame that it exists softlocks the game, and the only way out of this is to open up the home menu and close down Super Mario Odyssey. Imagine your surprise if you discover this just casually. Here's a random glitch you can see whenever you leave the Odyssey in the Lost Kingdom. When the camera begins freely moving, immediately enter photo mode and then take a look at the Koopa Trooper off to the right side of the screen. You'll see that the Koopa Trooper is still in his T-pose, which is the default pose for when you rig and animate a character in 3D. Now, under normal conditions, you would never be able to see this, but photo mode allows you to freeze frame the first moments of a world loading in. It seems this Koopa Trooper doesn't begin his real idle animation until a few frames after the world is loaded in. Now, you can see this exact same thing with the Koopa Troopers in different kingdoms, but there's a funnier version of this exact same glitch. If we head over to the New Donk City Hall and speak to this guy, we can do New Donk Festival all over again. Once you've finished the festival and return to City Hall, wait for the right time to enter photo mode and then take a look at the band. They'll all be in their T-pose. Or maybe they're doing their stretches. I don't know. Remember, all good musicians... I don't know where I'm taking this one. Time to move on, I think? Here's something that happened to me when I was messing around with a dog in the Seaside Kingdom. The dog tends to follow Mario around once you've dug up some coins, and if you take him under some blocks, well, you get this. What's funnier is, at 30 frames per second, everything kind of just freezes, but at 60 frames, you get this kind of vibrating craziness. Naturally, once a Goomba appeared, I had to have that in on the action, so you may wanna look away. There's probably some kids in the audience. I wanna divert their eyes. Might wanna slap an NSFW on that right there. Alright, that's enough, you two. I need to knock it off now. Now for something entirely different, and this is the invisible Cappy glitch. And it's exactly what it sounds like. To make Cappy invisible, head to the Luncheon Kingdom and then throw Cappy at one of the NPCs next to a bean, and while Mario is in his spinning animation, kick the bean. There's kind of a timing thing, but if you get it just right, Cappy will now be invisible. At first, it will look like Mario's just not wearing Cappy, but if you leave Mario standing idle for a second, you'll see that Cappy's eyes just magically appear on top of Mario's head. Which raises the question, has Cappy now possessed Mario? Does Cappy always possess Mario? Does Mario have any free will? What is life? Of course, Cappy is still just on Mario's head, so whenever you press the Y button to throw Cappy, Cappy reappears. This glitch can most likely be performed in other kingdoms with exactly the same rules. So if it happens to you guys in any other kingdoms, feel free to tweet me a short clip. That's not the only glitch we can perform with Cappy. There's also a glitch where Mario can be killed by Cappy. To do this, we need to head to the Luncheon Kingdom and find a piranha plant. Then we need to pick up a rock as Mario and then throw the rock at the piranha plant so he eats it. With the rock in the piranha plant's mouth, we need to then switch to 2 players, so one player is Mario and the other player is Cappy. Mario then needs to throw Cappy at the piranha plant to capture it, and then the second player as Cappy, and with great difficulty, can perform a ground pound on the piranha plant, which effectively kills Mario. Now obviously, if Mario is dead, then he's not going to be moving around anytime soon, which leaves you just as Cappy to spin around effectively. But just the same as with the Talkatoo glitch, if you warp to another point on the map, this will fix the glitch. It's a completely useless glitch, but it's so dumb in its concept, it's amazing. I went a tiny bit Jeff Goldblum there. Enemies in this game could do some super weird stuff, like a great example is here with this hammer bro? I mean, they're not hammers. Pam bro? I don't know. Anyway, after taking this guy out, when he respawns on these blocks, if he's hit by Cappy, for some reason, this will happen. Can you teach me that? That would be really useful in quite a few places in this game. Please? Okay, bye. No idea what causes this, but very fun to watch. This next kind of glitch involves our good friend Glydon, and it kind of exploits his larger hitbox, which is something the game tends to have a little bit of trouble with. For example, if you place Glydon on the very edge of some geometry, like say a cage with a moon inside it, if you now make very small jumps to the very corner of this box, Glydon will be able to clip inside and grab the moon without having to get it normally. And you can do this in pretty much any corner in any part of the game, which effectively gives you the easiest way to get out of bounds in Super Mario Odyssey. Unfortunately, if you are out of bounds, this usually means the ground around you isn't solid, and thus there's really not too much to explore. But that doesn't mean there's not a really interesting out of bounds in this game. This is where our good friend Gushen comes into play. I say friend, he's not a friend. In the Seaside Kingdom is this particular Gushen next to the coin blocks. Throw Cappy at the Gushen to capture it, and then move it just slightly over here, and then make sure you ground pound it to kill it off. This will push it into the floor slightly when it spawns. When it disappears, you need to stand in this spot where it will respawn, and then just keep jumping. When it fully spawns, Mario's jumping up and down will have pushed it into the ground, and now all you have to do is throw Cappy to capture it again. Now this next stage I find kind of finicky, but the general rule is if the Gushen is mostly underground, you can leave this area and the collision will be turned off for the Gushen, meaning it can go through absolutely any wall. So you can now explore everything out of bounds in the Seaside Kingdom, but bear in mind there is one wall that is completely impenetrable, and that is the very outer wall of Seaside Kingdom, so apart from that, you can go through anything. You can see what the classic Mario 2D section looks like from underneath, which is really cool actually. This is one of the best out of bounds I've had in the game, or pretty much any game recently actually. It's a real shame you have to do this glitch with a Gushen and not a Cheep Cheep, because potentially you could probably swim down into the depths and get even more out of bounds. This one's really easy and a lot of fun, so I recommend you give this one a try. But we're not done going out of bounds just yet. There's another out of bounds which is even easier in the Luncheon Kingdom. All you need is one of these pan bros, yeah, I'm calling them pan bros, and just take him to this spot and his big hitbox will push him through this wall. It's super simple, but again, because you're out of bounds, the floor isn't solid, so there's not really a lot to see. It's just seeing everything from the other side. Yeah, still cool, I guess. The next two out of bounds are slightly more interesting, but definitely much harder. The first involves the scooter in New Donk City and taking it to this point where you have this guy standing outside a doorway. You need to jump over this guy and then land the scooter in this small space where it just about fits. You then need to hold right and then keep accelerating until the bike gets to about this point, and when it looks like it's about to bonk off the fence, you kind of need to ease up on the acceleration, and with enough trying and patience, you can actually sometimes get pushed pushed through the wall. And once you're in here, there's again not too much to see, but you can pass through all these walls, and it's pretty fun, I guess? I don't know what else to say about this one. It's the kind of glitch you do maybe once in your life, and then you never do it again. But it's interesting that this was found pretty much day one. This next Out of Bounds takes place in the Mushroom Kingdom and also involves the scooter and this tree. What you need to do is get next to the tree and then you can jump and then accelerate up the tree, which sounds ridiculous, but if you do this in just the right way, you can get bonked through the ground and then land in this small out of bounds area next to the water. Now the scooter can't touch the water, otherwise it disappears, and there's not much wiggle room for exploration because the floor is basically non-existent. Oh, and there's also one really random out of bounds in the Cap Kingdom. All you have to do is grab one of these flying Goombas and head for this corner, and for some reason, there's no collision there, so you can literally just fly straight through it and you're out of bounds. Again though, it's very insignificant and there's not a lot to see, you're just out of bounds, again. So as we can see, out of bounds in this game just isn't as, well, crazy as it would usually be, but it's still fun, so it's worth giving a try. Before we move on to the last bunch of glitches, there's one glitch I want to talk about which I wasn't able to replicate, but it's so crazy to me because there's so many different versions of how it gets triggered, but the result is always the same. This glitch is essentially a swim in the air glitch, but I think there's maybe more to it than that. And like I said, the ways that this glitch is triggered varies. By resetting Koopa races, by entering and leaving an area, by warping from checkpoint to checkpoint, but it seems to happen so sporadically and randomly that there's no real way of triggering this successfully. It seems the defining way to tell if this glitch is actually in effect or not is there any water around? All the clips I've seen, the water in the Seaside Kingdom seems to have disappeared, which most likely somehow means that that plane of water has actually been moved way up into the sky. But unfortunately, until I actually experience this glitch, I won't know more about it, and with no successful or consistent way to trigger it, it could be a while. So in the nature of trying to figure this one out, if you come across this glitch, make sure to use your share button on the Switch to capture any footage you might have. Until then, it's just a mystery. This next random glitch happens during the boss fight in the Seaside Kingdom. It seems that jumping out of a Gushen while on top of this boss's head, if you recapture the Gushen at the same time, you somehow end up indefinitely gaining height. This also, however, softlocks your game, so you're trapped in this jumping up motion and there's nothing you can do about it. Now, I wasn't able to replicate this for testing, but it definitely looks like a pretty funny glitch, and I'm imagining you can get pretty high. Apparently so high that there's no ceiling and you can no longer see the ground. Definitely not what the developers intended. This infinite height glitch reminds me of another glitch you can do with the dog on the moon. Now there's a sentence I never thought I'd say. To perform this glitch, all you need to do is get the dog to follow you around, and what he'll do is he'll jump up and down these small ledges. If you can manage to jump on the dog while he's up in the air from one of these jumps, what will happen is his height will keep getting reset every time he thinks he's trying to land. Now if Mario bounces off the dog and then throws Cappy at the height of his jump, the dog will reset to a new height value. So essentially this means if you keep this up for another couple of minutes, you'll hit the boundary for the top of the world. What will happen then is you're no longer able to gain any height and Mario is pushed off the dog, and this is where I decided I'm gonna see how far out of bounds I can get. Unfortunately, there is an invisible wall between you and the rest of the moon, so I wasn't able to get to this large patch of the moon, and you know, that was sad. That was sad for me. Anyway, it's a super easy glitch and you guys should try it out. Let's go to the dark side of the moon for a second, and if you finish this part of the game, you'll find this long post that sticks out of the ground. Well, if you dive off the side of this ledge, Mario can actually grab an invisible pole. This is basically the pole's collision just extending down towards the ground, so it appears invisible, but it's still technically a pole. Mario can even climb up the pole and end up inside the ground, which is so random. This game truly is an odyssey. It's just odd to see. Really? Let's move on to the final Bowser fight, and during this fight you can actually get the game to technically softlock, though it's not really a softlock. I'll explain. In the last phase of the fight, where Bowser does a number of different turns where you have to jump over his tail, jump over the tail the first time, and then jump into Bowser to take damage, and then immediately begin punching Bowser as much as you can. If you do this just right, Mario will get stuck in this position as Bowser moves on, and there's nothing you can do except punch thin air. Now technically the game is softlocked because Mario is unable to do anything, but if you take damage from one of these giant metal spike balls, everything returns to normal. Well, it would do if I had more hit points. I didn't, and I died. So always have full health. is the lesson I learned that day. Ah well, let's move on to another freezing glitch which is actually pretty cool. For this one we'll head to the hardest stage in the game, or considered the hardest stage of the game, the darker side of the moon. For this glitch, what we want to do is take out the giant purple hat at the very beginning of the stage, and doing this will award us one of these life up hearts. What we need to do now is grab a bunch of Goombas, preferably about 3 or 4 Goombas tall, and then make it to the middle section where the heart is sitting. You then need to jump out of the Goombas and then lure them towards the heart, and just as they're both touching, throw Cappy at the Goombas. If you do this just right, you'll now notice that everything has frozen in place. Except for Mario, that is, who can now jump out of the Goombas, and you're now free to run around this entire area with some very interesting side effects. The first thing you'll notice is that Mario can now run on lava. I hope this becomes canon. Coins no longer spin, and item boxes no longer do anything, and all moving objects within the stage are now completely still. You are able to make it to the small cannon that fires you to the next section of this stage, but because you don't have a lava bubble and everything's frozen, you're not able to get any further. I guess the only thing left to do here now is die. Yeah, about that. You can technically die, but suddenly the kill plane is disabled as well. So the game just lets you fall through the lava and into space, I guess? I have no idea what's happening now. I think this might be what hell feels like. Oh, and by the way, the game is pretty much softlocked. Man, I knew the darker side of the moon was tough, but wow. But about that, what if I told you the darker side of the moon could be skipped entirely? Before you enter the main stage, you'll find these 2 frogs, and you can see our destination in the background is the giant skyscraper from New Donk City. What you need to do is capture one of the frogs and then jump at the same time as the other frog is gonna jump. While in the air, jump out of one frog and bounce on the other and then capture it. This, for some completely unscientific reason, tricks the frog into thinking it's swimming, and you can now swim to victory. That's right, you can swim majestically across the cosmos as a frog to reach the other side and grab your multi-moons in record-breaking time. This is ridiculous as it is effective, and I absolutely love this glitch. It's super easy, you should definitely try it out. But that's it, there are no more worlds to conquer, and that's pretty much every glitch so far. I'm sure there will be many more discovered in the lifetime of Super Mario Odyssey. But for now, go and have fun with these glitches. And if you love Super Mario glitches, why not check out this playlist with a ton of episodes from the series. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram, and as always, a huge thanks to everybody who supports the Patreon. You guys are the ones that make it happen.